know what? That's really what we wanted to do. It's like it's not about us. It's about the guests that come on, and it's like there's people in Moncton doing incredible things. There's people in Atlantic Canada doing incredible things. And oftentimes it's like people we run into the grocery store every day and we just like kind of smile and nod and would never know, right? So we need to share these stories. If not, it's like everybody leaves and you see them like on TV or whatever, and like, oh yeah, that person used to be in Moncton, but like they don't have a relationship with Moncton anymore, right?
Well, and Atlantic Canadians in general are very like humble people.
Yeah.
So they don't want to be bragging about things or
Yeah.
telling their own stories. And I think it's like it's so important. I remember talking to someone once and it's Heather Moyes from PEI, and
Okay.
she's an Olympian.
Yeah.
And she said she asked her bobsled, I think it was. And she asked like her little nephew
Yeah.
one day, like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to be an Olympian. And if he had never seen her do it, he may have never thought that was
Right.
possible.
Yeah.
So how are people in a small city ever going to think that they can ever do anything if they never see anyone doing it? It's like that
Totally.
happens.
Yeah.
Like how many hockey players have you seen come out of small town Nova Scotia
Yeah.
since Crosby and since all these
100%.
guys came out?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that influence and like that expectation that you can actually do things.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, it was always like, if you want to do anything big with your life, you got to move to Toronto, you got to
Yeah.
move to Vancouver, you got to move to Montreal.
Yeah.
That's just not true.
And I've said that many times as an example, like on the podcast. I'm like, I remember being in high school and everybody couldn't wait to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side, if you want to make this place really good and you want to improve this place, it's like you have a responsibility actually to stay here and do something with your potential, right? It's not because you leave somewhere else that you're going to find the key to success. It's like it was always within you, right? And I think we, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, the opportunities in a certain sense looked on the surface as if there weren't as many. But hey, today, Moncton's a different place, right? And it's because some people stay like you.
Yeah.
You stuck around. So.
I mean, yeah, I don't know about me, but I think like, it's not, don't get me wrong. Like if you want to do like big work, living in a big center is definitely easier.
Yeah.
I think like living here, you have to travel a little bit more. You have to do those kind of things, and you got to work maybe a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But the trade-off for lifestyle is just like so much better.
Yeah.
Like I love traveling for work. I love getting out of Moncton and doing that kind of stuff. But I mean, I always feel like, oh, it's so nice to be home.
Yeah.
Like when I get home.
Yeah.
You get off the plane, it's like, like, it's
peace and quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's totally different. And I mean, don't get me wrong. This city has grown a lot, and a lot of people would argue that Moncton is big.
Right.
Like some people think it's a big place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nowhere near what you would get in the other places.
No.
So.
All right, we kind of skip the intro. Now we're going to get right into the intro. So Denis, welcome to the Here's How podcast. We've talked about this a few times and we wanted to kind of fit it in. And, Austin obviously had mixed feelings of coming on, but I think I'm just so excited that you came on.
Thanks,
I don't even remember when we met. Maybe you do.
I would assume it would have been on a shoot. Like you were doing some modeling there back in your model days.
Yeah, back in my model days.
Yeah.
Back when I had
you should
hair.
resurrect those days.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. But I, like, even though we hadn't met yet, I had always seen a lot of the things that you did. Like, it was always like, the people's headshots, or I've seen a lot of the hair, like with hairstylists and stuff like that, and there's always, like, to me, I can always tell when it's really good work and your work. And I think today, fast forward to today, even when I knew that stuff, today I think a lot of people would agree that if they want a real quality piece, you're the person to see in this area. So congrats on that.
Thanks.
I've been involved in being in shoots with you, both with Home Hardware but with other projects. And I would say that also a part that has always stuck with me is how incredibly comfortable you make people feel while they're on set. And it makes it really easy for people that might have never done it before, that are maybe just naturally shy. For me, it was always like, oh, it looks really fun to do, but as soon as you start doing it, it's like, oh shit, this is like really kind of awkward, and you got to be really vulnerable. But the experiences that I've had with you have been the ones that I've felt have been the stepping stones to make it easier and easier. So what's your recipe to do that?
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
First of all, I did not pay for this
yeah,
advertising. I had nothing.
yeah.
I didn't pay John any money for any of the things he just said. That's super kind of you. I think like, you can anyone can learn how to do the all the technical things
Yeah.
that are involved with running a camera and doing all of that kind of stuff. I think what a lot of people miss or don't realize is like a big part of doing that,
Mhm.
any creative endeavor really, is how you interact with people.
Right.
So I've never been like Nate, who's on our team, is a phenomenal food photographer, product photographer.
Yeah.
I can't do that stuff. I get
Okay.
bored
Okay.
doing it. I need like this. Like I
Okay.
need
Okay.
this
Okay.
conversation. I need that. And it wasn't always that way, but I think you have to. The biggest thing is everyone's so nervous about getting
Right.
in front of a camera. Almost, I would say, 98% of the population.
Yeah.
So making them feel at ease and making them instill trust in you
Yeah.
is like 90% of 95% of what we do.
Yeah.
um and I think the toughest thing in that situation too is like you don't have a lot of time with these people sometimes.
Right.
Like I
Right.
photograph people sometimes where like I get 10 minutes, I get 5 minutes, I get 15 minutes,
Okay.
and then like use 80% of that time to talk to the person and get them comfortable, and the 20% that you're shooting is going to be so much better than if you're just firing off frames.
Yeah.
And I think like not paying too much attention to the back of your screen, not looking at your monitor, like engage with the people. Don't
Yeah.
try to talk to them through a camera. Like put your camera down, talk to them straight
Okay.
on
Okay.
is
Okay.
is huge. But I think too, like you got to figure people out really quickly.
Right. Right. Right.
Everyone's different,
Yeah.
so you can't talk to one person the same way you talk to other people. There's some jokes that like I can tell to some people, but I
Yeah.
can't tell to other people. And like some people don't like it if you're swearing a lot, and so
Right.
you got to really judge the crowd
Yeah.
really quickly. And yeah, comfort is just like it's huge, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like even the when we did shoots with our employees back during the COVID time, and I think you must remember we had the face shields and all that fun stuff, and those turned out really well. And what you probably have noticed through that experience there, a lot of those people, like when I first started here, and still to this day, the hardest thing to do is to get some of our staff on camera. Not because like now it's starting like when we're shooting videos, Matt and I, when we're doing our little stuff and all that, you can see they're more curious and interested now than they were maybe 5 years ago. But there's still that, oh, if I get in front, oh no, 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 I don't want to do that. But you like our Mike O'Neill, that's our director of hardware, he was like, you'll never get him on camera again, still. But he was so pumped seeing himself on camera at that time, all because of you, right?
Thanks,
So
man. I think a lot of people like they don't know what to expect,
yeah,
right? Like they think it's going to be a certain way, and sometimes it is.
yeah,
Like it
for sure.
depends who you're working. I've been on sets sometimes that it's like it's so tense, like I'm working with other people,
Yeah,
and it's very tense and it's very uncomfortable.
yeah,
And the ones where everyone's really laid back, everyone's really organized, those are always the best ones. And I always start those kind of things with a conversation.
yeah,
So like if I was doing this right now and I was interviewing
yeah,
you, like we would have a chat first,
yeah,
off away from the cameras. Like we wouldn't be sitting in front of all the lights,
yeah,
because as soon as probably notice that when your people come in for these,
yeah.
you talk to them off off camera, and then as soon as they sit here in front of the
It
lights, it
changes.
totally
I
changes.
know.
And you have to keep that conversation going. So, and I think people often ask too, like, oh, really? Is it really going to be a half hour? Like, this is only a 30-second video or a
Right,
1 minute
right.
video. Well, the first 10 minutes, it's just shit.
It's the
Usually, it's
yeah,
usually just like getting people warmed up, getting
yeah,
them into the groove.
yeah.
Um, so I think that makes a big difference. And I mean, most people, no one does this.
I know.
Like
Yeah,
people don't
yeah,
sit in front of cameras and
yeah,
talk, and so it's uncomfortable for some people, for a lot of people.
yeah,
And so as the interviewer or as the photographer or whatever, if you know that going in and you go in with that mindset and think, okay, I'm gonna, that's your first thing. It's like
yeah,
break that down.
yeah,
That just it changes everything.
yeah. Like even I like we're 30 episodes in. I can only say maybe up until 3, 4 episodes ago, I felt really comfortable in my own skin sitting in these episodes. I think before, like, a lot of the nerves coming up to it were like, for the first, I guess, 30% of when we've done them, it was more thinking about myself. How am I gonna sound? Am I gonna stutter? Am I gonna like all the time? Like things like that. And then once you watch the episodes and you kind of humble yourself with the experience and then get yourself outside of your head and you're like, the only way I'm gonna get really good at this is embrace it and be like, it's like picking up a guitar the first time. It's like you're not playing like the craziest song right when you pick it up. So it's like, listen, strum a couple chords, get it going, and like the muscle is gonna get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then the
Do
next,
you watch them back?
yeah, I do.
And do you kind of like learn from that? And yeah,
Exactly. Like I try not to make it about looking for things that I can specifically do better. Like, can I sit better or can I say specific words less or whatever? It's like, look at it and try to just overall think of, did I feel comfortable in those moments? And if I don't look like I'm comfortable in that, can I picture it back and be like, what are the thoughts that went through my head, and am I too much in my own head? Because I think a lot of the times it's that stops you from having a more authentic demeanor in front of the camera, right? It's like you're so inside of your head and overcomplicating it, right?
and I think like I don't prep a lot when we do interviews.
Right.
I do some prep, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, and
Yeah.
depends on the job. But like the videos we do with you
Yeah.
guys, I knew what I wanted to talk about.
Hmm.
But I don't prep, and that works for me.
Right.
But I know a lot of people that do prep a lot, and
Yeah.
that works for them.
Yeah.
I think it's like you have to be, as the interviewer, like you have to be the most confident person in
In
the
the room.
room.
Yeah.
Um, and for me too, like when we're doing interviews, I'm not just interviewing, I'm like helping with cameras, I'm doing
Yeah.
lighting, I'm doing that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Like Austin and the rest of the team take care of most of that stuff, and I can just focus on interviewing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you have to be the person, because the person sitting in the chair has to feel like you've got your shit together.
Yeah. That's
Because
true.
if you come across nervous
Yeah.
or anything like that, I
They're
don't know
gonna
if
be
you've
shitting
ever,
their pants.
yeah. Um, there's a Q by Tom Power. It's like a CBC show.
Okay.
He's like one of the best interviewers I've ever seen, and I don't watch a lot of it, but I've watched some.
Yeah.
And it's just like it looks like he's talking to a friend of his,
Okay. Right.
and that's how they always feel, no matter. And he interviews like huge celebrities.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he preps a lot, obviously, because he
Yeah.
has to do a bunch of research, and he
Yeah.
has a research team.
Yeah.
But when he's talking to them, it just feels so real and natural.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think like that's how it has to be. Like it can't be this robotic thing that
Yeah.
feels over prepared. That's why I tell people like don't prep for the interview. I'm
No.
not
Right.
sending you the questions ahead of time.
You told me that a few times. Yeah.
Never. Like
Yeah.
we have people ask for it.
Yeah.
I had someone come with a full like binder full of like notes that they wanted to talk about, and they sat down in the chair with their binder and they sat there, and I said, "Are you all set?" And they said, "Yeah." And I took their binder away and I put it over here,
Nice.
and they were like, "What am I?" I said, "It's gonna be better. I
Right.
promise. Like
Yeah.
we can go back to those if you feel like you didn't talk about the things you need to,
Yeah.
but it's gonna feel too rehearsed."
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, like, obviously in a situation like that, I think the person was wanting to come off as very ready for a situation like that. Does it, can it sometimes, like, do you think that's the detriment to most bad situations? Like that's where all the bad situations happen. They just over prepare or they over analyze.
Oh, I mean, I think most of the bad situations honestly would come from who's doing the interview.
Right. Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't think any of the onus is really ever on the person being interviewed.
Right.
Sure, there's some people that are like very closed off. I've done some stuff before where I ask them something, they're like, "Yep."
Oh.
And it's like, "Oh shit. It's going to be a yep start."
Yeah.
And then you got to like,
Warm them up, right?
and the conversation that you have before, ask questions about like personal life and that kind of stuff. Like
Okay.
get to know
Okay.
them a little bit,
Yeah.
because you can always go back to those kind of things, because they would relate on it,
Right.
and they'll feel comfortable talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes when it, like even like with photography, if you can't
Yeah.
get like a great smile out of someone,
Okay.
maybe they just told you like they're going on vacation, and then it's like, "Oh well, smile like you're going to be smiling when you're sitting on that beach in 2 weeks." And you're like,
Right.
"Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, that's
Yeah.
great," and then you
The
get a
eyes
real
light
smile
up.
out of them, and then it kind of disarms them a little bit.
Okay.
So I think like I don't think the prep would really cause that big of an issue. I think like having notes that you're trying to like read line for line, yes.
Yeah.
But no, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, like, are like when you go into, so I guess for the most part, some of the contracts that you're currently doing right now, um, do you often choose ones that only allow you to do it in this style, or do you, even though the request is maybe more specific, like, something that's more scripted or whatnot, is that approach of being, I'm not going to say unprepared, but I mean having that approach still your key to success in those situations there?
I mean, it really depends. I mean, I said I don't prep. I mean, I definitely do a bit of stuff, but it's not very often that I sit there with notes.
Right. Okay.
Um, it, we're doing a job right now where I am,
Okay.
because I need to hit certain points and I need
Right.
to make sure I hit those points. But
Yeah.
it's usually at the end of the conversation I take a look and I'm like, oh, I did hit. Okay, I hit everything.
Okay. Right.
Or oh shit, I missed that line.
Okay. Okay.
But like the scripted stuff, we did something. It was like a 5 minute video. It was all scripted.
Okay.
We did some teleprompter,
Okay.
because then they're talking right to camera.
Gotcha.
They were like, oh, let's just hold up some paper. It was like, no, we're gonna do it like teleprompter, do
Yeah.
it right so you can. But one of the people, they had to walk and talk. And you
Okay.
can't teleprompt that because you can't move. The
Oh,
teleprompter
true,
had
true,
to be
true.
stable.
Yeah.
And he practiced and he rehearsed, but we
Okay.
also helped him where it was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna do this like line by line.
Right. Okay.
So you're gonna do this part first,
Okay.
and I'm gonna feed you all the lines ahead of time. It's gonna take a few takes. It's totally fine,
Yeah.
because you can't cut it.
Right.
There's no
Right. Right.
B cam to cut
Okay.
something
Okay. Okay.
from.
Okay.
So yeah, it totally depends on what we're doing.
Yeah. Do are those the ones where you're doing it scripted in that fashion? Are they the ones that take the longest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to get it exactly right.
Yeah.
And you don't have to just get the words right. You have to get the delivery right.
Yeah.
And maybe a truck drove by and you got the delivery right.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
the
yeah.
audio sucks and you got to do it again. Or awesome if we're like on a gimbal and the gimbal's got a bit of a shake to it. Well,
Yeah.
we got to do that again. And so there's a
Yeah.
lot of factors involved that makes it's just more complicated.
Right.
And we rarely, well, we have, but I mean, with this kind of that job especially,
Okay.
this was not an actor by any means.
Right.
Not someone who's used to doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna take some takes, and we tell them ahead of time. It's like, listen, takes you 30 times to do it. Takes you 30 times
Yeah.
to do it. It's not
Yeah.
a big deal. We're here. It's fine.
Yeah.
We're not in a rush.
Yeah.
Because that adds extra pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's
Wrong
like,
time
okay,
sync there.
you got to get this line out.
Yeah.
You got 2
Gotta
minutes to
nail
get this
it.
line out,
Yeah.
and it's not gonna help.
Yeah. And hopefully before they start the shoot, they know that you rarely sleep, take a day off, barely take any vacation. So like they've hired the person that will sit there for 24 hours, line by line, over and over, right?
I've gotten better. I've gotten a lot
How
better.
so?
Well, I don't work 80, 100-hour weeks anymore.
Right.
So I'm down to like 50 to 60 some
That's
weeks.
manageable.
Yeah, it's like a part-time job.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it depends on the weeks there,
Mm.
but I mean, we've got a great team of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
We're super lucky.
Yeah.
And I think like in 2020, at the end of 2020, like March there when it all
Yep.
went down,
Yep.
I was on a shoot. I remember I was on a shoot in Quebec, and like I was in rough shape and like really burnt out
Okay.
and really overweight. And the pandemic probably actually like this is it helped me because
Right.
it forced me to slow down.
Okay.
And then it actually that's where Uproar got born because we had
Right.
some
That's
time to
true.
think about
Yeah.
some stuff. And then I was like, I can't ever get back to that place. And I started seeing the benefit of actually like taking time off.
Okay.
It was tough, man. I mean, like when you work for like I worked for myself.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
And it always felt like if I slowed down, everything would stop
Yeah.
and like all the work would go away.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not true, obviously, but
For sure.
that's just the way you feel. So
That's crazy too, because like, at by 2020, like how long had you been taking photos?
I've been doing it full time. I started doing it full time in 2011,
So you still had like almost 10 years behind. Like
like 9 years. Yeah.
it's crazy to think that you had still had this concept inside of your mind that like if I stop doing that much work, like people aren't gonna
For, like,
think
a
I'm
couple
I'm
days.
valued, like I'm valued to the market.
Yeah,
That's
I think
crazy, eh?
though like I've had this conversation with other entrepreneurs too,
Yeah.
and like I think we all like you go through those, especially creatives. You go
Yeah.
through those waves because like typically December's a little
Yeah.
slow,
Yeah. Yeah.
January's a little slow. Like my wife would always like February-ish, she'd always be like, "Okay, it's going to come back."
Right.
Like the work is it's
Yeah.
just slow. It's always like
Yeah.
this. You don't need to freak out this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
But I freak out every year. Every year in
It's
February,
like
March,
autopilot.
it just happens
Yeah.
because it's like, oh shit, like it's
Yeah.
slow. Is the work ever going to come back? And it does.
Yeah.
Like it always does. So it's but you never know.
Yeah.
Like it could all fall apart.
And I think, like, even past entrepreneurs, I think a lot of people, um, I have similarities in terms of what you face. I've never done it on an entrepreneur scale. Like, I've never seen myself as an entrepreneur. I'm really comfortable with working for someone as long as it still is in line with my values and what is really important to me. However, I really struggle also with, like, if I don't do the extra stuff, if I don't like finish this now, or if I don't do a little bit more than the other person, um, they're gonna see through the cracks, and it's that imposter syndrome coming out, right? Where it's like maybe they'll think that I'm like, I have a political science degree. Maybe they'll think like he doesn't know anything about marketing, right? And it's like I'm really beating myself over nothing and struggling over it, for
It's a
those
good
reasons
point,
there,
though. I
right?
mean, I think not just everyone, I think,
Yeah.
feels that way.
Yeah.
Especially like if you work in a big company, I think probably a lot of people would think like, well, if I slow down, that person's gonna
Yeah.
overtake me, and
Yeah.
if I do this, that person's gonna, like. I think that's just human nature. You feel like you have to keep running, or else someone's gonna catch you.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's a normal thing. It's not healthy by any means, but
Yeah.
it's a normal
And
thing.
it's tough too, because like I was, it's conflicting thinking of, in your personal life you shouldn't always put your worth as being like valued to other people. You like, it should be, if you feel worthy within yourself, if you're happy about the things that you do, that should be enough. And the people that gravitate towards you because of that is because of your authenticity. And yeah, maybe the room won't be super crowded, but I think a crowded room often brings like people beyond their boundaries, and they start being kind of getting into those people pleasing tendencies and all that. But on the flip side, when you're in that business world, it's very difficult to say
Yeah.
like, I'm if I think my work is good, that's enough. It's like, well, that might not pay the bills.
No, and that's the difference. Is like I had this conversation with someone I photographed this morning.
Yeah.
Actually, she said her son went to school for graphic design. I
Okay.
said, "Oh, where does he work now?" And she said he works at TD.
Okay.
When he started doing graphic design as a career,
Yeah.
it quickly wasn't as much fun
Okay. Okay.
because, and I get,
Yeah.
because it's like there are days where it's like I don't always get to do the most exciting thing. Like there are jobs that we're doing right now that are not the most exciting jobs to do.
Right.
Um, but it's a good client. It pays
Yep.
the bills. It's it's a different creative challenge.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean but getting back to your thing about like worth, I think like social media wouldn't exist if humans didn't feel that way.
Right.
So they all want validation.
Yeah.
We all, to a certain extent, everyone wants it.
Yeah.
You want to post a photo and you want people to like it.
Yeah.
Like, it's the way it is, and I think there's like a healthy balance.
Yep.
There somewhere, but not everyone has it. So.
I remember I think it was last year, we went for lunch, and we were talking a little bit about both of our situations in like managing people, and I had asked you a question on like, when you are in a situation where the work's not that exciting, how do you get, because you can do it, like you have a framework built around boring work, making it worth it for the client.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably more difficult to inspire other people. And I
Yeah.
remember you had talked about a conversation that you had with Nate about like, this maybe not be the most exciting thing, but try to figure out a certain angle to shoot differently. Do something that you wouldn't normally do, and see if that inspires you, or that when you come out of it, maybe it looks like crap work, but at least you gain the experience of trying something different. I was like, yeah, that really stuck to me, thinking that sometimes it's not where you are, it's not the setting, it's almost like how you reframe it in a way where you can create a perspective that might just be different than what you shoot usually. And if it's someone that's shooting, let's say, food photography and all that. Like I remember when I was working at Doma, it's like, man, it's so easy to take photos of things that are really fucking nice. But like imagine if you like on the flip side had to take photo like stock images for the website. Like that's super boring, right? But you still have to do it.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is like the work is important to someone.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what you're doing is important to someone. So regardless of its importance to you,
Yeah.
whoever you're giving it to needs this, and they need it to be the best it can possibly be.
Yeah.
And I think in those situations is where people kind of shine the most,
Yeah.
because you can't just like you can't autopilot on those kind of jobs, because on anything really. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's like you guys with this.
Yeah.
You can't just autopilot and so that episode 150 looks the same as episode 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have to be getting better as you're going.
Yeah.
You have to be getting better. Matt has to be getting, like everyone has to be getting better all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I think those ones are the ones that are, you know, the interviews that are most challenging are probably the ones you would learn the most from.
100%.
Like the
100%.
frames that are the most challenging for Matt are the ones that he would learn the most
Yeah.
from. So the shoots that are not as inspiring or not as challenging, there's always something to learn, and we always talk about that
Yeah.
on our team. Is like, what do we do monthly? We sit down monthly. Ben puts together like a bunch of the content that we've shot.
Okay.
He puts together some videos for us to watch for inspiration. We talk about the shoots, what went well, what went wrong, what did we learn, what can we do
Oh,
different,
really?
and we talk about the full, like the production, so like start to finish, like
Okay.
communication with client, delivery, reviews, revisions. Okay, too many notes here. Why did they want to change this? Why did we miss that?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Does this frame look nice? Like we just did something for a client, and Austin and I often have some different opinions on what the lighting should look like.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was pushing for lighting. And when we sat down in that meeting to look at the video afterwards, I was like, I just want to start this meeting by saying I was wrong.
Okay.
The lighting that I wanted to do was not the right lighting. The lighting you wanted to do was the right lighting, and I
Crazy.
should have listened to you a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
more. So I think like, and we always do that. There's always stuff that we can learn from everything. So
Yeah.
those kind of jobs that you're doing, again, they're so important to those people
Yeah.
that, you know, we do a lot of headshots, like a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
corporate headshots,
Yeah.
and we do them in a very similar way,
Yep.
similar light, similar camera, similar everything, because it's a look and it
Yep.
works,
Yeah.
and that's
Yep.
what people want.
Yep.
So it's not like there's not a lot of creativity in
Mm-hmm.
those shoots
Mm-hmm.
in that way. There is creativity in like everybody's different, so
Yep.
you have to like everyone wants to look their best in a headshot, so
Mm-hmm.
you have to try and find the right angle and make the people feel comfortable, all that kind of stuff. But you know, it's relatively the same thing.
Yeah.
But that headshot is super important for
To
that
them,
person,
I know.
and they need an amazing photo that they can put online because it's going to represent them.
I'll say one thing though. There is a certain like obviously you have a consistency to them, the lighting, like it's like I always love seeing them. The part that I love the most actually is even though there's a consistency to it, there's always this element of whether I know the person or I don't. Sometimes when it's someone that I know of, I feel like you've captured what I know in the photo, even if it looks the same. And that's something that I think differentiates you from photography that I would see just randomly, right? Because I'm like, I know Denis, but also when I see that it's Denis that took the photo, there's an element, there's a certain communication there that's consistent with what I know. And then also, I find that when it's someone that I don't know, I feel like what I'm seeing is very much what they probably are, honestly, like in a positive way. Like, so that I don't know if
Oh,
anyone's ever told you that, but it's like,
well, thanks,
yeah.
man. I think if I could get maybe some of the clips from this that I could use in promo, that would
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
great.
If we can just shoot a commercial for this,
It's turning into an ad.
here's $1,000 here, buddy.
No, thanks, man. I really appreciate
No,
that.
no, no.
I think like what we talked about earlier, though. It's like you making people feel comfortable
Yep,
and making people feel like they can be
yep,
themselves too, and like sometimes pushing people a little bit
yep, yep.
outside of their comfort zone. Um, like I've done shoots that are like, man, that was tough to get like a genuine smile
Yeah,
out of that person, but it's not up to them to give you a genuine smile. It's up to you to bring out a
Yeah.
genuine smile.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing like when we shoot video, like if we're directing talent, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Like they don't know if they're not doing it right. We need to tell them, okay,
Yeah.
that was great,
Yeah.
but it looked rehearsed. Like it
Right.
looked like you were acting.
Right.
So like we need more casual, we need more. And
Yeah.
sometimes they don't know how to do that, so you literally have to tell them. Sometimes you're telling people like how to walk,
Right. Right. Right.
which is like you've walked your whole life and this is
Yeah.
different though.
Yeah. Need you to
So
look cool while
yeah.
you're walking.
Some people don't look cool when they
Yeah.
walk. It's just the way it is. I
That's
don't look cool when I walk. But yeah, I think thank you for that. That's really kind of you to say. I think
yeah.
that's like very much um that's the goal going into
Right.
every shoot is like you want that person to look at that photo and love it
Yeah.
and feel like that's me.
Yeah.
Like that represents me. That feels like
Yeah.
me. And that's all. That's not lighting. That's not camera angles.
Yeah.
That's not any of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's personality. That's like bringing that out, right? So
Well, and it's something that I've always admired from your work is that, like, I have always done social, like, marketing centered around social media and using it as a communication tool, and to taking a brand's message and the whole branding and really like doing a lot of things that consistently say a message. So I have a lot of opportunities. But when I see your work, I'm like, you have one photo here, and every time that I see it, I'm like, man, I want to look as cool as that person, right? And you make them look cool, and but in an authentic way, which is, it's only one shot,
yeah,
right? Which is crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's been so fun with video. Is
Yeah.
like with photo, it's so much harder to tell a
Right.
story
Yeah. Yeah.
unless
Yeah.
you're doing like a series or
Yeah.
something like that. But like with video, it's you have a lot more opportunity to tell a story. But that was always tough where it's like and like you do big campaigns and the deliverables are like you shoot for 4 days and you
Yeah.
deliver 15 photos and you got to tell a story in 15 photos,
Yeah.
15 different stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always the tough thing to do, but that's what we have to do.
That's true.
That's yeah.
Well, you do it well. I'm wondering, like, what was that? So kind of, I'll start off with one question, and hopefully you remember the second part. But what
I'll do my best.
what was that like aha moment, or that, that whatever it was in your life that got you into really owning in on doing this? And then the second part is, when did it transition into doing it in video? Because I had met you, and for the most part it was photo, right?
Yeah. And do you mean like just photography in general?
Well, I'm thinking, like, when did you start being like, okay, this is more than just kind of like my hobby or my kind of little passion project. It's like, oh, I'm gonna make a business out of this.
So I went to school to be an accountant,
Okay.
and
Like a real accountant, or what people say that they're gonna be an accountant, but
I don't know, and then make it past like the
I
first semester of that
kind of side
goal.
note on that. I say that joke, but I always wondered, like, when people are like, they say, "Oh yeah, I'm just an accountant." I'm like, yeah, but actually, what do you actually do? Like, what are you hiding? Right? Maybe they all want to be photographers.
I have a great accountant, so I'm not going to reach for that one. And I mean, it goes back to, we were talking about this earlier. Like, yeah. I didn't really know anyone that was like doing photography full time. And I mean, up until really a couple of years ago, I would talk to people, like, not really like extended family. My immediate family was always super supportive, but like there was some extended family and there were some other people, you tell them you're a photographer and they're like, oh, that's great. Like, what else do you do? Or do you shoot a lot of weddings? Because that's the box.
That's true. Right.
And I mean, I haven't shot a wedding in 10 years, 12 years probably. Don't get me wrong. Like, when I started, I did that. But I think like the switch happened. So I went to school. I started doing photography there at university. I left after 4 years with a very low GPA, and my second year, first year of university, I started working at Ivan's Camera here in Moncton. And I worked at Ivan's Camera for 9 years, 10 years maybe. And I met a lot of photographers working there, of course. And I started working part-time for some other photographers as well, like helping out on shoots. I was doing retouching for a couple of photographers in town as well. So I'd finish at work and then I'd go retouch for a few hours or like work on the weekend. And I was shooting a little bit for myself, like
Yeah.
nothing crazy. But I started seeing like what they were doing. And I remember being one of the photographers I was working for, we were having a conversation about something, and she's like, "Yeah, no, I had a really great year. I made 100 grand this year." And I was like, "Holy shit!"
What year was this?
I don't know. It was a long time ago. I mean, she was doing like 40 weddings a year,
Oh yeah, there's some
and
money
like
in
horribly
that.
burning herself out
Yeah,
and that kind
yeah,
of stuff.
yeah,
But that's before expenses and before
yeah,
obviously equipment is not cheap and all
yeah,
that kind of stuff. And I was like, holy shit, okay. Like you can make a
yeah,
real
yeah,
career.
yeah.
Because I mean, I would see photographers come in and they'd be buying like $5,000 lenses and $5,000 cameras and thinking like, how the hell does anybody afford all of this stuff? I
Right,
knew how the doctors and the lawyers
right.
who did hobby photography.
Yeah.
But that was like kind of a, oh, okay, you can do this like for real. And then I was at a point when I was working at Ivan's where I knew I couldn't really, that was it. Like I couldn't really
Right.
go any further there. I was like, okay, I got to do something. And so I started shooting a lot more. So I was working 40 hours a week at Ivan's and then I was putting like 40 hours a week on the side into my photography work. Started gradually like building up a clientele.
Hmm.
And then I went down to part-time at Ivan's. So I went down to like 20 hours a week. So now I had like 60 hours a week I could put into my photography.
Okay.
And I got a studio and started shooting and just like and I was like shooting nonstop. So I was
Yeah.
working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I was if I wasn't working at Ivan's or editing, I was shooting, and like that was it.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And then I think it was like I worked. That was like June of 2011, I think. And then in December, I worked like Christmas, and then that was it. I was done. And then
Okay.
I was doing at that point I was doing photography full time.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I don't know if I knew then like if I had known earlier, I would have made the jump earlier.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it was like it was super tough for the my
Yeah.
first year. I made like $12,000, $16,000 or something
Okay.
like that, which
With
was
just the photography.
just the
Yeah.
photography,
Okay.
which was like I was like, oh my god, this is so exciting, like, which is so ridiculous, right? I mean, that would have been like 2012 or something. And I had a studio that I was really lucky. I was paying very low
Okay.
rent. Um, we lived paycheck to paycheck. It was like we'd pay the power bill this
Yeah.
month and the internet the next month, and
Yeah.
then try to balance it out. And like so, and then gradually, it just went from there and built up from there. And I think, yeah, I mean, you learned a lot
Yeah.
working for yourself in like those first few years, and like
Yeah.
just that's why when we were talking about like I was scared to stop,
Right.
I I
Because
couldn't.
you
Like that
remember
was
that
it.
struggle, right?
Well, yeah, like I mean,
Yeah.
I was the only one. I mean, my wife was a teacher at the time,
Okay.
and so that was just like I had to make money. Like
Yeah.
I
I
had
had
to
to
do this,
grind,
and I
right?
wanted to build a business.
Right.
That was the thing. When I got into doing photography, it wasn't like I love photography
Yeah.
very, very much,
Yeah.
but I also really like the business side of things.
Okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
that always really helped me because I
Right.
always had a business focus.
Okay.
I
Okay.
wanted to grow. I wanted to get bigger. I want to do bigger things.
Right.
And I had goals for like, I want to shoot big campaigns. I want to shoot magazines. And I want to do this. I want to do that. So I was always putting out work.
Right.
So yeah. And then the video thing, I think I had wanted to do video for a good 5 years before
Okay.
Uproar even
Okay. I
started.
didn't know that.
I had no interest in shooting it.
Yeah.
I shot it a little bit and I was like, I
Right.
hate this. I don't,
Yeah.
but I love directing
Okay. Okay.
because
Okay.
that's such a big part of my photo
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
direct
Yeah.
people all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
I always say I can never be like a journalistic photographer.
Okay.
I'm not good at capturing things.
Okay.
I know that.
Right.
I'm okay,
Right.
but where my strengths are is like creating things.
Okay.
So like
Okay.
creating a scene, directing people to do certain things,
Gotcha.
and do that. So I was like, I think like directing would be. I didn't want to edit. I hated video
Okay.
editing.
Yeah.
So I started looking for someone
Yeah.
that I could kind of work with a little bit. And then I had talked to a few people. I kind of like I was on set with a few people. Thought, oh well, maybe I could join another business, or maybe
Oh,
they'd want
okay.
you know
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like I really, there's no way I could work for anyone else.
Right.
So I don't think I could do that. And then I met Austin when he was at Mackenzie College.
Right.
My cousin Joel was his teacher,
Okay.
and he's like, you should meet this guy. He's really driven. He
Yeah.
does really cool work.
Yeah.
So he used to bring his class to the studio every
Yeah.
year for. You can cut this down, right? I'm just rambling on.
No.
You can
This
cut
is
down.
freaking.
No, this is just
gold.
live off the floor. You don't cut
No,
this?
we don't cut
No,
anything.
you gotta cut stuff. One take.
It's
Jesus.
just one sharp take.
Oh my god, cut all that. They used to bring their class every year. He would bring the Mackenzie
Yeah.
College photography class to my studio. I
Yeah.
would do like a little demo. I would talk to them about photography and all that kind of stuff. And then Austin stuck around after, and we started chatting. And I was like, well, if you want to like start assisting on some shoots,
Yeah.
like sure, that'd be great. And so he assisted for. He was like 18 when I met him. I
Okay.
think. Like I remember we were on a shoot, a big shoot up in Bathurst. Was it in Bathurst? No, in Grand Falls.
Yeah.
And we went to the restaurant after, and everyone ordered beer, and he got a Coke or a Sprite or something
Yeah.
because he couldn't. He wasn't. He was illegal.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of laughed about it, and I was like, no, he's 18. And they were like, what? So he assisted for, I think it was like 2 years.
Yeah.
And like a lot. We traveled a ton together. And this was like back when I was still me. It was just me.
Right.
And so
Yeah,
I wasn't
yeah.
like, I was still watching expenses a lot. So like we shared hotel rooms a lot.
Okay.
We were like, we got to know each other pretty well. Two people driving in a car all over the province and all over Atlantic
No other
Canada.
way, right?
And then I think it was, I don't know if it was during COVID or if it was a little before, but I said, I've always wanted to, we talked a lot,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've always wanted to open a video company, add video to what we're doing.
Yeah.
To what I'm doing. And I said, but I don't want to shoot. I don't want to edit.
Okay,
Like, it's just not of interest to me. I think there's a gap in the market.
Yeah.
I think I've seen what's out there and what's happening, and like, there's a lot of great stuff,
Yeah.
but I think we can, there's a space there.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, video's what I always wanted to do, which I
Right.
didn't know. He was shooting some weddings, and he was doing
Okay.
some grad photos,
Okay.
and he was doing some portraits, and he was shooting, and he was doing like some pretty creative stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, this was like on a Friday or something like that. We were coming back from a shoot. I think we were coming back from St. John.
Yeah.
And I said, that's cool. Like, why don't you go shoot something this weekend? Send it to me by Monday. Like a little test.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, he sent me a video of his dad out like on a 4-wheeler, and it was like, it was interesting the way he shot it, and it was
Okay,
kind of
good.
cool and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, all right, let's do it. And then
Crazy.
yeah. So that would have had to have been during COVID, because we started talking about what the business would look like,
Yeah.
how we would do this. We had that mostly figured out by, I think, like November, December
Yeah,
2020, and then
yeah.
we launched Uproar like February 2021.
Yeah, because I think we did a shoot like within that first year that you were doing.
Yeah,
because
'cause
I
we were
was
doing
really excited. I was like, because I think Luke had actually messaged because he wanted to refresh some headshots,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
at the same time you were starting to do videos.
Yeah.
So you're like, and I was like, oh, we should really start doing some content for LinkedIn for our like internal culture and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that shoot, I remember that shoot. We
Yeah.
borrowed the lights. We rented the lights. We
Yeah.
had no equipment.
Yeah.
We had borrowed some lenses, and like, we didn't have any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
all like, it started all very raw. He moved to Moncton because he lived in Rogersville.
Yeah.
And it was him and I, and Sarah, my wife, had started working with me at
Okay.
that point. She was
Right.
doing all the photo retouching and
Yeah.
doing all the books and that kind of stuff. So it was him, Sarah, and I in the studio.
Okay.
And then it got to a point where it was like, oh, we can't handle this ourselves. We hired Ben. And then
Okay.
there were 4 of us in the
Right.
studio, but I'd be shooting at the same time.
Okay.
And Ben's desk was like in the middle, and he was like facing the people I was shooting. So it was the most awkward thing. I was like, okay, we got to change this.
I can't do my magic here.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been so much fun. It's I never would have imagined it be where it is at this point.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun, like building a team
Yeah.
and having people, and just growing a business with other people.
Has Austin ever expressed like was it complementary how you guys work together. Like you talk about like the whole, like I was really more, it wasn't even about just the photography, it was the business part. Was
Yeah.
for him, was it like the other way around? Like
Yes.
was he like, I don't want to do this, as I don't know how to run a business?
People can learn how to run a
Right,
business.
right.
But he's still only, I think he turns 26 like in a week or
Yeah.
something like that. 26 or 27, 25, 26. Yeah, because he can rent a rental car now. Right.
You like have all these chapters of his life. It's like, okay, he drank a Coke, so he was 18 at that point, and then he can't rent a car yet, so he's not 25.
Well, we go on shoots and like we'd have to drive like forever, and like I had to do all the driving because we
Yeah,
weren't
that's
old enough
true.
to
That's
drive.
true.
Anyway, I still do most of the driving because I love driving.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think like he wanted to shoot
Yeah.
and focus on that, and I like directing people. So
Yeah.
yeah, what we do is very, very,
Complimentary, right?
very complimentary.
Yeah.
Like we step on each other's toes a little bit when it comes to certain things,
Okay.
just because we're both creative and
Yeah.
opinionated and have a vision, and it doesn't always align,
Right.
which is fine. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like he didn't want to get into like managing people. I think
Right.
he will eventually,
Yeah.
but I don't think right now. So yeah, no, definitely.
I find that with a lot of people, that you, or I guess when you see people fail at the business side of things, it's because they have this like what you, the opposite of what you did. It's like they have a really big interest, like the graphic design kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to do graphic design, but as soon as you get into doing it as maybe like a solopreneur or whatever, it's like then you're like, oh yeah, but then I have to do the bookkeeping, and I have to like, clean my office, I have to pay my bills, I have to do this, I have to do that, and then they're like, oh well, oh yeah, it is nice working for someone, and then it's all taken care of, right? I think that part we don't glamorize it as much. I think a lot of what's glamorized with entrepreneurship is I don't have a boss, right? And that's,
You do though.
yeah.
Like one of the sayings one of the sayings I hate the most
Okay.
is like, if you do a job you'll love, you'll never work a
Yeah,
day in your
true.
life.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
give me a break. You're gonna work every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna work a lot.
Yeah.
You're definitely gonna work. Some days are gonna actually feel like work.
Yeah.
But if you do what you love, you'll definitely be happier. You'll feel
Right.
more rewarded.
Yeah.
But it's still gonna feel like work sometimes. It's not
100%.
every day is not like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is the most amazing day in the world. Don't get me wrong, most of the days
Yeah.
are, but there's days where I'm like, oh my God, like I just want to go home.
Yeah.
And like, and rarely when I'm on a shoot. I don't know the last time that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like being on shoots is like the best thing in the world.
Okay. Yeah.
But like, there's you're doing emails. Like I've most of this week for me is a lot of emails, proposals, going back, and we have like 6 jobs that are starting in the next like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So getting all the logistics together, it's not, you're not sitting behind a camera or directing people or doing that kind of stuff. Like that's 10% of the job.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I think that's why there's a lot of really talented people who aren't super successful in business.
Right.
And on the flip side, there's a lot of mediocre work out there.
Yeah.
And people are really successful.
Right.
There's people out there with 30, 40, 50,000 followers on whatever.
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And they're not making a ton of money.
Right. That's true.
It's not, it doesn't translate.
It doesn't correlate. Yeah.
You got to answer emails quickly. You have to be organized.
Yeah.
You have to have systems.
Yeah.
You have to know how to quote things properly. Like there's a lot of things that go in. And when we started Uproar, we were very careful of like we use Asana for all our project management,
Right.
but we built it in a way that it'll grow,
Right.
and that it's managed,
Right.
and that it keeps everybody on time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all of those little things are the things that a lot of people don't think about when they want to get into. They're like, oh, this would be super fun to do as a career. It is.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's amazing, and I'm super lucky to do it.
Well, and I've learned like through my experience through like more on the career side is that there's a lot of people, like especially right now, like there's a lot of people that are making a lot of content or making a lot of money or however you want to frame it around like business related content and systems, and you have to do it this way, and I have a book for this, and what I've grown to learn, and I have interest in those things, and I like to read books. I find first and foremost is like, if you really want to get good knowledge, find it in a book first, because someone has put a lot of time into putting it in there. It's been edited and all that. It's like, don't just watch 30-second clips on TikTok all the time. Like, there's so much misinformation on there, and it's like, you're gonna go all over the place. But where I'm trying to get with that is that, like, if you do that long enough, you realize that it's pretty much all the same thing, and you need to be really consistent at those specific things. And what I've found a really good place in is that once I learn who I am and what I want to do and what's important to me, it makes it easier to apply all the boring things to it. And you need to find a space where it's like you're not getting away from the boring shit, but make that space a space that you feel way happier doing those things, because no matter what, they're going to suck. And there's going to be days where last night you broke up with your girlfriend and you have to go to work the next day and you have to do a shoot, right? Well, like, it's way easier if on the flip side you're not going to do accounting, right? And you know that you don't want to do accounting. But in accounting, you might be doing a lot of those, like responding to emails, working with clients, doing this and doing that. But if you're in a space where you feel way better or content, or that you know what you want to do, way easier to do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think what you said, consistency.
Yeah.
That's it right there. It's like, it's going to compound. So just keep doing things well, and don't stop doing things well, and keep up with everything.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest, is when you fall behind on emails, or you fall behind on proofing or editing and that kind of stuff. And it's like, then it's hard to catch up because you still have to do all the other things. So just don't fall behind on things. Like, be consistent with what you do. I think, like what you said about like books and that kind of thing. I think there's I did a workshop in person.
Okay.
2 years ago. I went to LA. This like awesome, incredible photographer. I did 2 of them when I was there, and it's great to like sit at your computer and watch a YouTube video on how to do something.
Yeah.
Sure, you're definitely gonna get something out of that. But the human, there's no subs. I still do a lot of meetings. I do a lot of meetings with clients or prospective clients. It's a big part of our business development, because it's such a relationship business. And I go meet people in person. I don't do a Zoom call or Teams or whatever unless I have to.
Right.
I go to Halifax, St. John, Fredericton, Newfoundland. I go to these places and go to where they are and meet with them, because it makes a difference. Like, it's the same thing with learning things. And I reading a book instead of, like you said, watching a 15-second clip. Like, I downloaded, what's that app called where it like summarize Headspace? It summarizes books. I downloaded the other day. I was like, oh, that could be interesting. And I listened to like 5 minutes of something. I was like, this sucks. Like, this is terrible. It's an AI voice, which is fine. It's just
not the same.
It's just not my thing. It works for some people, great. But I think, like, if you can talk to people in person, go see people in person, even people you want to learn from. Like, you'd be surprised. A lot of people, when I was starting out, I reached out to a lot of people for help. And a lot of people were very helpful.
It's crazy if like that. And I think a lot of people, what they don't realize is, if you never ask, the answer is always no.
100%.
Right. And a lot of people get in their head and they say like, well, this person won't give me the time of day. There's no way. And on what I would say to that is that a lot of people, no matter their success, actually want to help, so long as you're interested in what they do. Right.
I think it's going to depend, obviously. Like, if you're reaching out to like super busy people, like,
Fair.
It might not always happen, but I think because a lot of people were in that position at one point, they understand. So I think, like, I mean, I've done it a lot where it's like, hey, I can't figure out how to do this, or hey, could I pick your brain for like 10? Can I buy you a coffee? Can I buy you dinner? Whatever. Don't waste people's time. Like, go in there prepared. And I think it just, I think people like to pay it forward, and they like to help people, and our industry is a little bit weird where you have like two kinds of people where it's like some you have the oh those are trade secrets like I
Yeah.
can't tell you those
I
things.
hate that part about like
That's the dumbest thing in the world. And then there's the people that are like, yeah, here's like I will if you call me and ask me like how did you shoot that? I will draw you a picture. I will tell you the lighting. I
yeah,
will how did you price that? Here's the estimate.
yeah,
Like these are not trade secrets. And
no.
if you're so scared of losing work because of how you lit something or that's
Yeah, that's
not
an insecurity thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's an insecurity thing, but it's
yeah.
also like that's not what makes the
No.
work great in the end. It helps.
Yeah, yeah,
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, sure, you got to know how to use your camera. You got to know how
yeah.
to light. You got to know how to do all that. But the way that you
It's the whole
deal with
package,
people,
right?
it's the whole thing. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
funny because like as you were saying that about like this kind of two schools of our industry and all that. Like one thing that I really dislike, and I think it's part of me is not really good at remembering a lot of like the actual terms of things, but I find in marketing in general, there's a lot of people that like to overcomplicate it and
Mm-hmm.
make it sound really crazily complicated when in reality it's super simple. And I think that if we could spend more time like um one guy that had told me this recently where I had helped out with him with his business said that you know what's really nice talking to you about this is that you put all your effort in trying to make me understand how to do it on my own versus trying to gatekeep it. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I was like, well, it's also because I kind of don't know how to gatekeep it. Like, I'm just like I learned
Also, like,
by,
what's the point?
right. I learned by like trying to amass as much information as possible, digest it, and make it simpler for me to understand it. And also, I'm like, I want to tell the world that it's like, you don't need to spend like 5 years in
Mm,
school to do these things. Yeah, it definitely helps, but there's other ways,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and I think like I mean, I don't cook a whole lot. I'm not a great
Okay.
cook, but if you put me and a professional chef in a room
Yeah.
and someone stands in front of us and says, "You're going to make this dish.
Yeah.
Here's the ingredients.
Yeah.
Here's all the
Yeah.
ingredients. Here's how you cook it. This is the temperature. This is this. This is how you dice the onions. This is how you do that." We get all the same information.
Yeah.
That person's dish is still going to be way better than my
Yeah.
dish.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And it's not because we got all the information the same. It's
100%.
because we know how to that person knows how to do that.
Do the things, right?
So the whole like anyway, the whole like no, I'm not telling you how I lit that
Yeah.
and I'm not telling you this. Like give me a break.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
And I think when especially in an environment like, anything that's like art is always very chaotic. Like, ideas can come during a shower or the middle of the night. And, you never know, right? I think that's one of those kind of disorganized industries that also breeds a lot of like really cool things. But because of that, I think it's an industry where we need to actually use that in our favor in order to like, hey, I thought about that on one time, but this is how I work through it. And then like having those conversations there and building a community rather than everybody being chaotic on their
Mm-hmm.
own, I
Yeah.
think then it makes for better work, right?
100%. And it's like that saying is like rising tides or
Yeah.
I'm going to screw this up. You're going to cut that part, right?
No, 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 no. We're gonna put the
Raise
subtitle.
all oceans, boats, all the boats, all the boats come up when the water gets high. Yeah,
That makes
that'll
sense.
work. I think that's it. Like
Yeah.
it's you had like you had Brock and Nate
Yep.
and Desmond on
Yep.
like who are fantastic at what they do.
Yep.
I think like seeing what they're doing is amazing, and like you see what there's so many companies like in Atlantic Canada and people like that doing so many amazing things.
Yep.
And the thing is like it just raises the bar for
Yep.
everyone.
Yep.
And it raises the bar for clients, it
Yep.
raises the bar for the work,
Yep.
agents, everybody. And the more we get more stuff like that, instead of seeing it as like, oh, they're competition, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we can't associate with them or whatever. I just think it's unnecessary,
Yeah.
and it's like this place is way too small,
Yeah.
and it's everyone knows everyone, and we all work in the same world, and it's like just be kind to each other,
Yeah.
help everyone out, and like you know, there's nothing that would stop us from, if we're like, if we're working on something and we think this
Yeah.
person could really help us on the job, but they work for the competitor,
Right.
nothing's going to stop us from bringing them in and doing that, because in the
Yeah.
end it's all about giving the best work to to the clients and that kind of stuff.
And we've talked a few times about it, but I told you about kind of my journey with getting into marketing, and it's always been like trying to convince that small to be medium business owner to do these things, and it was very challenging. And I think that in the circumstances that that picture that you're painting there, it's like if we're all working together and making really great work, and the people that are our clients get the results that they want, isn't that like, don't you think that this is going to help everyone be more convinced in what we do is actually worth it? Versus if we're all gatekeeping and we're all working against each other, and this person has 10 clients, that person has 0 clients, this person jacks up his price, then this person just doesn't have any validation because it doesn't have a portfolio. Like, it screws everybody over.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
You don't really want a monopoly in the creative space.
No,
for sure.
No, exactly.
So, yeah. How like, so you obviously a lot of your content has been I would say more on the I call it kind of like hero content, like it's like the best campaigns that this company is going to do and all that. How have you embraced, or have you embraced social media content? Like, obviously storytelling, I've talked about it a few times, whether it's on the podcast or with people that, we have these discussions, and I'm like, one thing that, if you're going to go into social media today, you need to revisit how you look at storytelling, because we've been conditioned, like through movies and stuff like that, that there's this crazy buildup and the character drops and then it builds back up and then this hero moment, and sometimes he dies at the end, but whatever. It's like, but that's like a slow burn, and social media is like, you got 3 seconds to start, right? And so you see the hook being pushed in front and all that. How have you managed to kind of get through, or
I mean, I think like, despite like most of the work that we do, most of our work lives on social media. Like, our clients are using that work on social, website, that kind of stuff, but mostly on social. Every job that we do, and we've put a big emphasis on this in the last year or two, is we talk about the first 3 seconds of the video.
Okay.
So we always talk about like, how do we hit that impact right at the start?
Okay.
And not everything that we do we get a say in.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes where stuff comes to us like fully baked. It's like, just execute.
Okay. Okay.
We give opinion and that kind of stuff, but it's not our idea. So we don't always get a say. But when we do, we always try to be like, listen, like that first 3 needs to be, that's what needs to hit. So yeah, I mean, we're very conscious of that when we're doing work. We don't necessarily do like social media content per se, but we do video work that lives on social media, photo and video work that generally lives on social media. So yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely, but like what you said about storytelling, I mean, that's been the constant through history. With photo, video, anything. It's the stuff that does the best and is the most entertaining and interesting, tells an interesting story.
Right.
Long form, short form, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The story has to be there. So
yeah, I find I'm curious to see how things are going to evolve, just with we're seeing a generation grow up with, like, I watched TV when I was younger. That was my form of, like, disassociating from school and all that. We'd watch like Saved by the Bell, and there was commercials and things like that, and sometimes you'd have reruns and 1 episode per week. And now you've got like Netflix on demand, you've got TikTok, you turn that on and you're on it for 4 hours and you're seeing screen times go up. And I'm very curious to see how that's going to evolve into the adults of tomorrow, and how they're going to portray their content or whatnot.
But I mean, do you find it yourself? I found myself when I was younger, like my parents would be like, they'd be like, oh, I don't get it. Like, it wasn't how it was in my day. Do you find yourself now saying those things a little bit?
A little bit. I mean, I've always been like, so I grew up as an only child, in a space where I think a lot of the time my parents would leave me to be entertained by something. You know, whether it's with friends or it's like the TV on or go play sports and stuff like that. Like they were like go outside, like go do something, which is great. Like
Yep.
it's awesome, and I think my parents, I thank them for it to make me so active and things like that. Um, but what I'm seeing now as I continue to observe it, and the reason why I was saying that is I've always, because I've had all that alone time, I've always been observant. So today I still sit there and try to look at this content that people are consuming today and just look at it from a perspective of like what makes this attention grabbing versus just like sitting there mindlessly and just like going through it and whatnot. And I find the only thing that I'm just really, I don't get it really is like I'm still very, I think it's cool. Like I love that I just recently kind of stumbled upon it on TikTok yesterday, and it's like Yellowstone National Park and Banff National Park. They're like their TikTok is so unhinged, and it's kind of like this little movement that they're doing.
Oh, that's cool.
But I kind of don't get it, and the reason why I'm saying that is that like I feel it's like cheap attention. It's just like, oh, you're doing trends and it's unhinged and it's like it's like so out of left field and it works for that. That I don't really understand in a certain
Yeah, I
sense,
mean
right?
that's not really my world. I don't
Yeah,
get that.
yeah,
Like I'm not on TikTok.
you should.
No, I'm good. I don't need to be on TikTok. It's not my thing.
Yeah,
I'm not I hate the trends.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not something I'm interested in.
yeah,
However, um, there's like we are a very, our group, like our team, very different ages,
yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
different interests. Everyone's very different
Hmm.
in that way. So I've had to learn how to think more on like, okay, listen, this is not what we're doing is not for me. Like
Right, right,
I'm not
right.
the audience here.
Okay,
Um, so like if we're doing something, the client's like, this needs to live on TikTok, this needs to live on Instagram.
right,
I'm not the audience.
right.
So I need to think about who the audience is.
Yeah,
And luckily we have people who are into that kind of stuff on the team, and we can have those conversations. Like sometimes they come to me with an idea and I'm like, I would never, I don't want to do that
yeah,
at
yeah,
all. But then I'm like, okay, like they sold it to me in a way that's like, oh no, that's cool. That's it.
okay,
Like some of the stuff we're doing right
yeah,
now on our social.
yeah. I've seen. Yeah,
Like Ben's, a lot of these, credit to Ben, like a lot of these are
I
his
would see that it
ideas.
would be bad ideas.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
like I would never, like if this, I would never be like, let's talk about how well we know each other.
yeah.
I would never come up with that idea. But again, I'm not the audience.
Right.
I'm not the one who's watching these videos. I'm not the one who,
Yeah,
I'm not marketing to myself.
yeah.
We're marketing to other people.
Well, there's one that stood out to me is like I might butcher this in a certain way, but it was like someone asked Austin to make a video of him
Yeah.
making coffee and make it like super cinematic.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so funny,
Yeah.
and it was really good.
It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
was like,
I had nothing
damn,
to do
like
with that.
I was like, first of all, I want coffee, and now I'm like, I'm moved.
Yeah. And I think that's like, it shows their personalities a
Yeah,
little bit,
yeah,
and it shows what Austin can do
yeah,
on a dime.
yeah.
And that's real. Like, I mean, he had a little bit of prep, don't get
Right,
me wrong.
right.
But I mean, that was generally just like stuff he came up with on the fly and he
Yeah,
wanted to do that. Um, so, but again, not, I would
yeah,
never think of, it's just not my thing.
yeah,
But when they had the idea, I was like, yeah, go for it. Like,
yeah.
this is, you got to like get out of yourself,
Hmm.
right? When you're creating for other people,
Yeah,
or when the audience is other people. So like that stuff, like the Yellowstone or whatever it
yeah,
is, or whatever it is if it's something that you're not into.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not into like the dances and
yeah,
like
for sure. Yeah,
all that,
yeah,
whatever they do on
yeah,
TikTok. I see some of it
yeah,
and like I get why some people would like it. It's entertainment,
yeah,
right? That's all it is.
yeah.
Um, and trends have always, there's always been
That's true.
trends.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, you look back at like the clothes we used to wear, it's just, it's different.
yeah,
Like, it's a different type of trend. Trends are something that will, and they'll come back
yeah.
and they'll
It's cultural, right?
recycle. And yeah, it's not longevity by any
Right.
means. And so I think, which is fine,
Yeah.
but you do see like a trend in people needing more content
Right. Right.
always, because
Yeah.
they need more stuff, they need more stuff, they need more stuff. So
Yeah, and I think that that's what I'm having a little bit of difficulty with the observing part of the content right now is that I find it very difficult to like. I like to embrace things that become timeless. Like I like to see something that like if someone is to embrace this like style for their campaign or their whole brand is around that, it's something that will live for a very long time.
Yeah.
And now I find it's like I can go on TikTok one week and then the next week I'm watching completely different stuff and it's all entertaining and I'm like, this is really weird.
You're not gonna see. I mean, you're not gonna see a lot of brands like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
For very much long. Like
Yeah.
that, those brands aren't gonna exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coca-Cola has been the same for. They changed their branding a little bit.
Yeah.
They made Coke.
Yeah.
They make Coke. That's their product. That's what they make. Like they've tried cherry Coke. They've tried vanilla Coke. They've done other things, but in the end, they've been Coke.
Yeah.
They've been a timeless brand.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of 150-year-old brands in 150 years from now. Maybe.
Maybe
they'll evolve. Maybe they'll change. And you do see some that have grown the brand and they've been able to be around for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
I think it's just different. Like you just have to, you can't just do the same thing over and over again anymore.
Right.
You have to keep innovating. You have to be on top of trends. You know, I talk about AI with people a lot. People ask me about AI a lot because it's like affecting our business and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's there. It's a real thing. And I think like you saw it happen with Kodak when digital happened.
Right. Yeah.
Like, Kodak was the first. They made the first digital camera.
Yeah.
And then they hid it.
Yeah.
So that no one would steal their film business.
Right.
Well, guess what? Someone figured out how to make it, and
they went out of business.
And their digital cameras are junk.
Right.
And they had a head start on everyone.
Right.
Companies that don't want to innovate and don't want to learn and don't want to stay up with what's happening in the world die.
Yeah.
And that's
like the story of Blockbuster, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Blockbuster, Kodak. What was the other one I was thinking of the other day? Anyway, it's like when Henry Ford created the car and the guys told him like, "Oh, it's just a trend.
Right.
People love their horses."
Yeah.
Like what?
Like,
how stupid does that sound now?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think all of our cameras are gonna die. This is friggin'.
Okay, no
I
problem.
always ask kind of one last question, and I think it's one that I'm really curious to see what your answer is on this. But if you were to start all over again in that day where you jumped into, like, you were working at Ivan's camera and you heard that lady with the 100K and all that, like, there's one thing that you could do differently that someone could learn from, what would that be?
See, that would have been a question I would have prepped for.
It stumped quite a few people where they're like, damn, that's a good question that it's watched the podcast, but I always forget you're going to ask
question. It. Yeah, true. My struggle right now is like, which one do I pick? Like, I mean, I think we all do a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's like, but I mean, there's some things here and there that I would probably change, like how I maybe dealt with something one time, or like, maybe there was a shoot where like I didn't push myself enough and didn't give a good enough product. There's all that kind of stuff. But I think in the end, and we talk about this a lot, when we do weekly meetings, and we talk about this, and I think failing is such a big part of learning.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, December, January, February, sometimes a little bit slow. We shoot like creative work.
Yeah.
Like projects that don't, like, if we fail completely, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you learn so much from those. So I definitely could pick some things that I would change, but I think the failures are what really has really propelled. Like, you do a shoot and you realize, oh shit, I should not have done that like this. You don't do it again.
Yeah.
As long as you're learning.
Yeah.
Right? Just don't keep failing.
Yeah.
Like, learn from that and grow.
And I love how you're like, you've obviously made it a business practice and a non-negotiable. You're like making sure that you're debriefing those failures to create a learning experience.
Of course.
And that's huge, right?
And I think it's like feeling like you can, like, if someone messes up, don't destroy that person.
Right.
Like, just be like, hey, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, don't let it happen again.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you dropped that camera.
Yeah.
Why did you drop that camera? Learn from it.
Yeah.
Not that that's happened. Well, it did happen once, but that was a long time ago. Learn from all of these things. But it can't just be like, you idiot, why did you do that? And that kind of stuff. And I think that does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
And people make mistakes. And it's fine. As long as it doesn't ruin your business and ruin your company, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Just like learn from it and move on.
There you go. Amazing, Denis. This was probably the conversation that I went by the quickest, and I'm sure we could have done another 3 hours of it. But
yeah, just like hook up some batteries to your cameras.
Yeah,
Plug
the budget needs to go up. Make sure Luke watches the end.
Yeah, Luke, put up the budget.
Yeah,
give these guys more money.
Perfect. I appreciate everything, man,
and
thanks for every piece of content that you've helped us create.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
I'm sure that I'm saying this not only for our company, but for many companies that you've dealt with. I'm sure they appreciate all the work you do.
Thanks, man.
All the individuals that have had headshots that have been hired for them, or their services have been procured because of that amazing shot or that billboard that they have up there. They've sold this or that or whatever. So all thanks to you. So
and like, believe me when I say, I always tell people it's our pleasure.
Yeah,
and it really is. Like we love doing this, and like, feel very lucky to be able to do it. So thanks. Amazing. Appreciate it.